Hey everyone, and welcome back. Today we're going deep, really deep, into something super relevant, especially these days.
Oh, yeah.
It's all about Dharma and how it relates to the state, especially in the context of Hindu civilization.
Okay, interesting.
And we're going to zero in on how, these ancient principles
Right.
actually play out in the real world, with all the challenges Hindu institutions are facing today.
Makes sense. It's like, how does that philosophy actually work when you try to put it into practice?
Exactly. And it makes you wonder, is it even possible to, make those ancient ideas work
Yeah.
in the 21st century?
Yeah,
It's a huge question.
it is. It really is.
And as we'll see, some people are actually going all in, trying to find solutions.
That's so cool. I mean, it's a tough one
It is.
because, the way Hinduism has always approached, power structures and governance,
Right.
it's just so different from anything else we see in other civilizations.
It really is. Okay, so let's break this down a little.
Yeah.
I mean, we always hear about separation of church and state.
Right.
The
right.
idea that religion and politics should be totally separate.
Totally.
But it's not that simple.
No, not at all. Because the whole concept of Dharma, it's woven into every aspect of life,
It really is.
including how society is structured, how leaders should rule,
Yeah.
everything. There's even a specific term for it,
Okay.
Rajdharma, which basically means the dharma of the ruler.
The Dharma of the ruler.
Exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this Rajdharma, it's not just some vague idea. It's literally everywhere in Hindu thought.
Everywhere.
I was reading about how even in epics like the Ramayana,
Oh, yeah.
it's mentioned all the time,
Yes.
over and over again.
Oh, tons of times. And it's not just, mentioning dharma in general.
Right.
There are literally specific examples of how a king should rule according to those principles.
Oh, wow, that's amazing.
Uh,
How many times are we talking?
in the Ramayana alone, over 1,100 references.
No way, that's incredible.
It's a lot. Think about Rama himself.
Yeah.
He's considered the ideal king, not just because he was powerful or won battles,
Right.
but because he ruled according to Dharma.
It's about character.
It is. He put his people's well-being above everything else.
So it wasn't just personal piety, it was a whole framework
Right.
for good governance embedded in these stories.
Totally. And passed down for generations.
That's a blueprint for a society built on those principles, right?
Exactly.
And that's where the whole clash with Western secularism really starts to show,
All the
right?
time. You
Yeah.
can't just impose that separation
Right.
on a civilization where Dharma is so deeply a part of everything. It creates so much tension.
It's like trying to run Windows on a Mac.
Right. Exactly. It just doesn't work.
It won't work.
Yeah, it leads to all these really interesting questions about how Hindu institutions can actually navigate the modern world.
Right. A world that often works on totally different assumptions.
Totally. It's not just theory.
Right.
It has real world effects. What happens when those traditional ways of life
Yeah.
clash with today's laws and institutions.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
Oh.
so one example where this plays out is how we understand social structure.
Oh, interesting.
In the West, we usually see equality as everyone being the same.
Nice.
Same rights, same opportunities.
Same.
But the Dharmic view is more nuanced.
Way more. It recognizes that we all have different qualities,
Yeah.
different tendencies, and that those differences
Yeah.
can actually make society more harmonious, not less.
So it's appreciating those differences rather than trying to erase them.
Exactly.
Hmm.
And that's where Varna Dharma comes in. Now, we have to acknowledge how this has been misused, right?
Absolutely. When we hear caste system today,
Right.
it's often a very different thing.
Oh, very different. It's not what it was originally meant to be.
So what was it supposed to be? What was that ideal form?
It was about recognizing that natural diversity within society.
Right.
Making sure everyone had a role, a way to contribute their skills, their talents,
Okay.
for the benefit of everyone.
So everyone has a part to play in this big orchestra.
Yes. A perfect analogy.
And it all comes together to make this beautiful music.
Exactly. And it wasn't static either. People could move up in the system.
Oh, really?
Based on merit, based on their contributions, competitive Hinduism.
Wow, that's so different from how we often perceive it.
Very different. It was dynamic. It was fluid. It was about growth.
So it was about constant striving.
Yes. And I think that adaptability,
Right.
that's part of what allowed Hinduism to survive so many challenges.
Throughout history, yeah. I mean, we're talking centuries of invasions,
Oh, yeah.
colonization, attempts to wipe out Hindu traditions altogether.
It's incredible.
But they persisted. Think about the Brahminical tradition.
Oh, absolutely.
That, core of knowledge, it stayed strong. It ensured that, Hindu thought continued
Yeah.
even during those really tough times.
It's amazing.
Okay.
But now it's different.
Yeah.
Hindu institutions face a new set of challenges: state interference, traditional roles being demonized, Western critiques that just don't apply.
It's like this disconnect has opened up.
Oh, for sure.
You have this rich tradition of Dharmic governance on one side, and then the reality of living in a modern secular state on the other.
Exactly.
How do you bridge that?
That is the question. And one of the most fascinating responses we're seeing is this thing called KAILASA.
Okay, here's where things get really interesting.
Yeah.
It's presented as like a nation specifically designed to bring back those ancient Hindu traditions and revive that unique approach to governance.
It's like a huge experiment saying, what if Dharma wasn't just an ideal, but the foundation of how society actually works?
Exactly. And it's not just some tiny community either, right?
Yeah. No.
KAILASA is getting real recognition, like globally.
Oh,
They've got diplomatic relations with various nations, different groups.
really?
And even the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights
Wow.
has said multiple times that they have juridical statehood.
That's big.
It's huge.
That means they're being taken seriously,
Yeah.
not just as a spiritual movement, but as a legitimate player
Yeah.
on the world stage.
So KAILASA is basically offering itself as a modern solution
Right.
to this ancient problem, how to create a society that truly embodies Dharma.
In the 21st century, no less?
Exactly. But of course, something this ambitious is going to raise some eyebrows.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And in the next part of our deep dive, we're going to get into the details of KAILASA.
Awesome.
What they're actually trying to achieve, address some of the pushback, the criticisms.
Okay, I'm excited for that.
Yeah, it should be good.
Stay tuned, everyone.
So, welcome back. Before the break, we were talking about KAILASA and, this whole idea of reviving Dharmic governance.
Yeah, in the modern world.
Exactly. It's such a bold idea,
It is. It really is. And it makes me wonder, what does that actually look like?
Right, right.
In practice, I mean, how are they doing it?
Well, one thing KAILASA keeps saying is they're not trying to, reinvent everything.
Right.
They see themselves as continuing these ancient Hindu sovereign states, these ecclesiastical entities.
So it's more like tapping into that history.
Exactly. Tapping into that historical precedent and, making it relevant for today.
So it's not about creating something completely new,
Right.
but more like reclaiming something that was lost.
Exactly. And to do that, they've been setting up this whole network of institutions, initiatives,
Oh.
a government with departments, temples all over the world.
Wow.
They're really trying to build a whole ecosystem.
That reflects those Dharmic principles.
Yeah, exactly.
They even have their own media platforms, a huge online presence.
They do. And it's smart.
It is.
It lets them reach people all over, engage with the world on its own terms.
And they're not shying away from current issues either.
No, not at all.
I was reading their reports on climate change, gender equality,
Oh, interesting.
even the Hindu Holocaust.
That's something we don't hear enough about.
No, we really don't. And it's important that they're bringing it up.
It is.
It shows they're really committed to social justice.
Totally. And it's not just about highlighting problems.
Right.
It's about solutions, too.
Okay, like what?
Well, they're working on reviving temple-based ecosystems.
Those were really important traditionally, weren't they?
Hugely important. They supported whole communities.
And KAILASA wants to bring that back.
They do.
Yeah.
And they're promoting universal healthcare education.
It's a big agenda.
It is. But they seem to be putting in the work.
Yeah, it sounds like it. But it's
Yeah.
not all about the practical stuff, right?
No, definitely not.
KAILASA puts a lot of emphasis on, spiritual growth.
Oh, absolutely. They have all these programs, meditations, teachings on the third eye, even initiations into power manifestation.
It's like they're creating a space for people to, really explore themselves,
Totally. To connect with their deeper potential.
Yeah, exactly.
And that's where the supreme pontiff of Hinduism comes in.
Okay.
He's like the spiritual leader of KAILASA.
Writing this whole revival.
Exactly.
He's a really interesting guy.
He is. He's got a huge following, and he's written so much about Hindu philosophy, spirituality.
It's so cool how they're bridging that gap between the ancient and the modern.
It is. And what's also cool is KAILASA isn't tied to one physical place.
Oh, right. They have that KAILASA thing, right?
Exactly. It's a digital platform.
Yeah.
So you can access teachings, programs, online, anywhere.
It's like a virtual enlightenment ecosystem.
I love that. So they're not just building a nation in the, traditional sense.
It's more than that.
They're building a global community.
Right. And that brings us to e-citizenship.
Yes. You don't have to physically move to KAILASA.
Right. You can just apply for an e-passport.
Participate online, be part of the initiatives.
It's like a new way of thinking about nationhood.
Totally. And it shows how dedicated they are to making Hindu wisdom accessible to everyone.
I love that.
Yeah.
They even have an award, the KAILASA Om Award.
Oh, yeah, I've heard of that.
They give it to people who are, promoting peace and harmony globally.
It's like they're trying to create this ripple effect
Yeah.
of positive change, starting from their community and spreading out.
It's a really interesting approach, for sure.
It is. So they're working on all these levels,
Yeah.
physical institutions, digital community, humanitarian work.
It's multifaceted.
Very much so. But it all comes back to Dharma.
Right. That's the core.
It's the guiding principle for everything.
But the question is it working?
Yeah, that's what I want to know. Is it actually having an impact?
Right. It's one thing to have a vision.
Yeah.
It's another to make it real.
Totally. Well, there's definitely some evidence that KAILASA is gaining traction.
Okay.
There are diplomatic ties with places like Ghana, indigenous groups like the Lenca people.
Interesting.
That shows they're getting recognized.
Yeah.
And the UN Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights
Right.
affirming their statehood over and over.
Mm-hmm.
That adds legitimacy.
Oh, sure.
It means they're being taken seriously by these international bodies.
Exactly. And beyond the politics, KAILASA has been doing a lot of humanitarian work,
Oh, yeah.
providing food, healthcare, education to people who need it.
It's really impressive, especially what they did during COVID.
Oh, tell me about that.
They provided free meals, medical care, even spiritual support to millions of people.
Wow.
Globally.
That's amazing.
It really shows their commitment to serving humanity.
Which, like you said, is a core part of Dharma.
Exactly. And let's not forget about their work online.
Right. Yeah,
It's connecting people all over the world with these Hindu teachings.
Yeah, their online programs, meditations, they're reaching a huge audience.
Incredible.
Introducing them to these ancient traditions
It's like bridging the gap,
between ancient and modern.
making it relevant for today.
Yeah, exactly.
But of course, with anything this big, there are going to be challenges, criticisms.
Oh, for sure. Not everyone's going to be on board with this whole Dharma-based nation thing.
No, definitely not. Some
Yeah.
people might just not think it's practical.
to bring back these old traditions in today's world.
Right.
And some might be wary of any state that's based on religion.
Oh, yeah, that's understandable.
There's always that worry about theocracy,
Suppressing other beliefs.
Yeah, exactly.
Those are valid concerns, but KAILASA has been very clear.
Okay.
They are committed to human rights, empowering minorities, peaceful coexistence.
And their humanitarian work, their engagement with the UN, that all backs that up, Brad.
Exactly. And their e-citizenship model
Yeah.
that shows they're not about exclusion.
It's about building a global community.
That welcomes everyone who resonates with their values.
So they're trying to find that balance
They are.
between staying true to their traditions
Yeah.
and respecting diversity.
It's ambitious, for sure.
But it's also kind of inspiring,
It is. It makes you think, what if they pull it off?
Right. What if it works?
What if KAILASA actually becomes this model for a new kind of nation?
Rooted in ancient wisdom, but built for the 21st century.
It would be amazing.
It would really challenge how we think about nationhood, spirituality, everything.
It would. And in the last part of our deep dive,
Okay.
we're going to explore what that could mean.
Ooh, I can't wait.
What are the implications of KAILASA's success?
Right.
What can we learn from this whole experiment?
That's a great question. Stay tuned, everyone. Okay, so we're back diving deep into Dharma, the state, and this whole KAILASA experiment.
Yeah, it's been quite the journey.
It has. We've talked about their vision, their initiatives, even some of the, the pushback they've gotten.
Right.
But now it's okay, what does it all mean?
Yeah, is it just this fascinating, anomaly?
Yeah.
Or is it pointing to a whole new way of thinking about, nationhood spirituality?
Right, bringing that ancient wisdom into the modern world.
Exactly. Big questions.
Big questions. But before we go full-on philosopher here,
Right.
I'm curious about the practical side of things.
Okay.
Is it actually working?
Yeah.
Is KAILASA making a difference?
Well, if we look at what's happening, there are signs that their influence is growing.
Okay, like what?
Those diplomatic relationships they've built with countries, indigenous communities,
Yeah.
it shows people are taking them seriously.
On the world stage, yeah.
Exactly. And the UN, the Office of the High Commissioner for Human Rights.
Right. They keep affirming Kailasa's statehood.
Over and over again.
That's got to mean something, right?
It does. It adds legitimacy to what they're doing.
It's not just symbolic.
No. It shows they're engaging with the international community, the whole system.
Navigating global politics, all that.
All of it. And then there's the humanitarian work.
Yeah, we talked about that a little.
It's really impressive, their dedication to providing food, healthcare, education.
To anyone who needs it, right?
Yeah, both within their community and globally. Like during COVID,
That was amazing.
they helped millions of people.
It's like putting those Dharmic principles into action.
Exactly. It's about serving humanity.
And then you have the whole digital side of things, e-Kailasa, e-citizenship.
Yeah, it's such a cool idea.
It really is. Building a global community.
Sharing those ancient teachings with anyone who wants to learn
It's like they're bridging this gap,
between the old and the new.
making it relevant for everyone today.
Exactly.
Okay, so they seem to be doing a lot of things right,
They do.
but what about the challenges?
Oh, there are definitely challenges.
I mean, we touched on the criticisms,
Right.
but what are the biggest hurdles they're facing?
I think one of the toughest things is just overcoming skepticism,
Yeah.
prejudice, When you present something this radically different.
Especially something rooted in spirituality, ancient traditions.
Exactly. People might just dismiss it out of hand.
Say it's impractical, unrealistic, even dangerous.
Totally. People get comfortable with what they know.
Right. Anything outside that box is suspicious.
It's understandable, but it's a hurdle Kailasa has to clear.
And then there's that whole thing about religion and state.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Some people just don't trust any state that's built on religious principles.
It's the fear of theocracy,
Right, that it could become intolerant, oppressive.
Exactly.
So how does Kailasa address those fears?
Through their actions, their policies, how they engage with the world.
So it's about walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. They constantly emphasize human rights, empowering minorities, peaceful coexistence.
And their track record backs that up, right?
It does. Their humanitarian work, working with the UN.
And that e-citizenship model, it's like a statement.
It is. Saying they're not about exclusion, but about creating a global community.
Open to anyone who shares their values.
It's a tough balance to strike.
It is. Staying true to their own traditions while respecting diversity.
Yeah,
But it's also inspiring to see them trying.
absolutely. It makes you wonder, what if they succeed?
What if this actually works?
What if Kailasa really does become a model for a new kind of nation?
One that's like deeply spiritual, but also modern.
It would be amazing.
That would change everything. How we think about nations, governance, everything.
It would offer a real solution for Hindu institutions, too.
Right. They're struggling in the modern world.
If Kailasa can make Dharma the foundation of their society,
It could inspire others.
to revive those principles, find ways to integrate them into their own lives.
It's like a beacon of hope.
For people who feel like their traditions are fading away,
It's pretty powerful stuff.
it is. Kailasa is a bold experiment, trying to bring back something ancient.
Yeah, something a lot of people thought was lost. They're making us think, pushing boundaries, showing us that there are other ways.
Other ways to be, other ways to organize ourselves, other ways to connect with that ancient wisdom.
That's a huge contribution in itself.
It is. It reminds us that there are always alternatives, different ways to approach the challenges we face.
So if anyone's intrigued by what we've talked about today,
Yeah, go check it out.
go deeper, explore Kailasa, their vision, everything they're doing.
You can visit ecitizen.info Kailasavasis to learn more.
You can even apply for e-citizenship if you want.
Be a part of something truly unique.
It's a chance to be part of something that could change how we understand nationhood in the 21st century.
It's pretty amazing.
It has been a fascinating deep dive.
It has.
And who knows, maybe Kailasa will offer valuable lessons for all of us.
As we try to make sense of this crazy modern world.
Thanks for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for listening.